Welcome everyone to my channel, The Real Super Sam, and today is a brand new video and I really hope you enjoy. In this video, I'm going to go through the Marvel comic mag titled Supervillain Team Up Volume 1. I'm going through a series by the collection in Marvel Essential Supervillain Team Up, which had some bonus stories outside of the main series. This will be 90% about Doctor Doom and his crazy day-to-day life, not going after his greatest enemies, the Fantastic Four. He encounters some other characters, old and new, with most of the team-up parts having to do with him and the Submariner, especially since one of the first supervillain team-ups ever were between Doctor Doom and Submariner. The story Marvel Essential Supervillain Team-Up was in between Fantastic Four issues 155 and 157, with, in that story, the Fantastic Four dealing with Doctor Doom again, but I'm not going to go through all of that, because the book starts in Astonishing Tales issues 1 through 3, issue 1 releasing August 1970, written by Roy Thomas and penciled by Wally Wood. Currently, Dr. Doom is the ruler of his country Latveria. Doom is working on a project creating the perfect weapon, a living being he dubs the Doomsman. At the same time, the disposed former leader of Latveria, called Prince Rodolfo, is organizing an army to oust Doom as leader of the country. Part of his plan is to distract Doom with a woman named Ramona, who has been striking resemblance to Doom's childhood love called Valeria. Doom falls for it, and she destroys the equipment that Doom was using to finalize the Doomsman robot, signaling Rodolfo to attack and giving the robot more cosmic power than intended. But while leaving, the Doomsman destroyed the invaders and left mysteriously, leaving the robot as a mystery on what it will do next. In the next issue, the Faceless One allies himself with Prince Rodolfo and the Latverian Underground in their coup against Dr. Doom. He does this for his own goals, as he is actually an alien. Again they attack, but we see Doom fly around with his blaster, stopping all of Prince Rodolfo's henchmen. This ends in a standoff between Dr. Doom and the Faceless One when the Doomsman walks in, torn between two masters. The Faceless One was an interesting character to have in here, issues 2 and 3 being his first appearances. He was hoping to use Latveria and Doom's technology in his conquest, but he gets defeated by Dr. Doom and the Doomsman. Not to admit defeat, Dr. Doom projects a hologram over the kingdom of Latveria. He tells that all will destroy him by using, or he'll destroy all of them by using a vibration machine to affect the fault line that Latveria rests on. Doom destroys his own kingdom rather than face defeat, forcing the resistance and the entire citizenship of Latveria to flee as every structure is shaking to the ground. The Doomsman is a robot who's powered by cosmic rays and has the brain pattern of Dr. Doom. Doom then pretended to be exhausted and needed sleep. Seeing Doom weak, the Doomsman attacked him, but Doom then exiled the robot to an alternate dimension called Earth 721, from where the Doomsman should be unable to return. As the Doomsman proved to be too dangerous and uncontrollable, Doom discarded his original plan to activate the other robots in his laboratory. Now, this video will have all of Rodolfo's appearances in it, actually. Prince Rodolfo was the crown prince to Latveria before his family was ousted as rulers by Dr. Doom. He became the leader of the Latverian Underground, opposing Doom's rule, and prepared several coups to overthrow him. He was the first attempt, with his army being easily defeated by Doombots. The reason I enjoy Dr. Doom so much, why he's my favorite Fantastic Four villain, is he can make mistakes and he has weaknesses, even though he's always, rightfully so, boasts and brags of his powers. Usually they aren't hollow statements, but sometimes his weaknesses come out. Like here when he said that he faked what face he has when he revealed it, a fake one to Ramona, by taking off his mask but having a hologram projected over it. When moments like that happen, I can easily put myself in Dr. Doom's shoes. And those were the first 3 issues of Astonishing Tales, the first stories in Marvel Essential Supervillain Team-Up, and it was pretty epic, and it ended in a big turning point way, with Doom destroying everything he ruled. What came next was a funny story. In Astonishing Tales issue 4 has Dr. Doom go to the Riviera for vacation. Yes, you heard that right. The rogue orders his people to rebuild Latveria, and while that goes on, he goes on vacation to get some small amusement among the rich and famous, and I love how he gets turned down like a normal person for wanting a royal suite. Dan just announces his name and he gets it. During the night, a burglar tries to steal from him, and the guy gets stopped by a force field around Doom's bed, and he just blasts him out of the room through the outside wall. He does this and calls himself merciful. Unknown to Doom, the Red Skull is back and invades his land, turning the place into an image of Nazi Germany. And then it led into issue 5, Dr. Doom vs. the Red Skull. Doom gets hit with a knockout gas while he's returning to his country and captured by the Red Skull. Furious on the takeover of his people, Doom awakens and breaks out and throws Red Skull's 3 henchmen around. Using a hypnotic ray, he makes the exiles believe that they have been shrunken down in size, and Doom sends them off in a rocket back to Exile Island, ending their occupation of Latveria. These last 2 issues were just fun craziness with Doom fighting a foe so evil that you can't help but root for Dr. Doom, especially after his funny personality came out in issue 4. Okay, the next 2 issues are a 2-part story where Dr. Doom faces the King of Wakanda, the Black Panther. Though through torture, Dr. Doom learns of vibranium in the secret nation Wakanda. He goes there to seek the vibranium, but Panther gets to his country and grabs Doom's gun away from him, aiming it at the villain. Black Panther, to get in front of the amount of vibranium, is threatening to blast it, making the volatile substance explode, destroying them all. Realizing that the Black Panther would rather destroy his entire country than see it enslaved, Dr. Doom considers the match a stalemate and retreats back to Latveria. This was my favorite story out of all the Astonishing Tales issues. My favorite part of this adventure is the similarities and differences with 2 rulers of 2 countries. For example, Doom's goals of world domination and slavery begin to disrupt his subordinates who believe their leader has gone mad and begin to contemplate trying to stop him, while Black Panther's kingdom always loves and trusts him. The last Dr. Doom Astonishing Tales for this vid is issue number 8. One time a year, Dr. Doom fights the devil to try and save his mother's soul from hell. Dr. Doom fights and loses to the Devil's champion today called Kagrog the Killer. Cynthia Von Doom's soul is still trapped, and Doom vows that when the next year comes to pass, he will be strong enough to beat the devil and free her soul. It was a very intense issue, but the end had a nice moment where we see Doom care for the only person that means something to him. The next story here came in Giant-Sized Supervillain Team-Up issue 1, March 1975, written and penciled by Roy Thomas and John Buscema. Dr. Doom's body crashes to Earth, his unconsciousness body in the ocean. He is found by a submariner who takes the Latverian monarch into his submarine and uses its equipment to revive him. At first, Doom, based off their last encounter, starts to fight Namor, but the Prince of Atlantis ponders that the 2 would be perfect allies. The issue then goes to a reprint of Submariner issue 20, where Dr. Doom tries to team up with Subby again, and they end up fighting with the anti-hero escaping. After that, Doom recalls his past experiences with supervillain team-ups, specifically a reprint of Marvel Superheroes issue 20, where Doom teamed up with the alchemist El Diablo. I'm not going to go through these reprints in detail because the gist is the 2 don't think team-ups would work well until today. Maybe. Or not. Since Doom comes to the conclusion in the end, one will betray the other no matter what, and rejects Subby's offer. Doom finds that he is outmatched in a fight with Namor, and so he escapes. In the aftermath, Namor figures that soon they will end up working together, and that they will someday conquer the Earth. And then in June 1975, Giant-Sized Supervillain Team-Up issue 2 came out. It opens with Submariner wrecking a ship, but making sure the crewmen were safe. He returns to Atlantis. There, he laments over the fact that all of his people are still trapped in suspended animation. Right then, Atlantis is attacked by Dr. Doom. Sort of. Doom just did this to discuss a partnership with the Submariner to bring about a brave new world. Submariner agrees to work together with Doom, and the 2 go to Doom's base. There, he shows Namor his army of robots and the control he has over them as he forces one bot to kill the other one just to convince Submariner that he has that power. But the robots have formed a religion and worship a being that today comes to the place, Andro, aka the Doomsman robot from Astonishing Tales. Doomsman discovered that he could influence the android's intelligence to be perceived as their god. He plans a plan to revolt against Doom in a bid for conquest of the Earth for machines. During the fight, Doom caused a flood within his own castle to escape and to revitalize the Submariner. Many androids were dragged to their deaths in the stream, which Andro regretted nothing, which offended the Submariner. The Submariner attacked Andro, but proud Doom insisted that it was his fight, not the Submariner's. Yes, this was the last appearance of the Doomsman/Andro. I was very surprised that so much story was given to it. Basically, it was just a minion gone rogue. Now, Andro actually disappears to come back someday, but he never has in comics, but he was never fully defeated in this issue. Dr. Doom goes back to his metal Doombots in the end, but doesn't form a team-up with him and Submariner, since the fish head is disturbed that Doom just kills all those sentient bots with no consciousness, and Andro was against them all because of him. Like, this whole battle happened because of Dr. Doom, and he just kills them all without a second thought. Well, after that, the main series started, and it kicked off with a 3-issue storyline in Supervillain Team-Up issues 1 through 3, all beginning in August 1975, written by Tony Isabella and George Tuska. In Latveria, Submariner departs Doom, saying no to a supervillain team-up since their previous ones ended in disaster, even dating back to the first time, which was in Fantastic Four issue 6. Dr. Doom then ponders this and comes to the conclusion he needs a real partner, not a pawn to manipulate. He must set aside the greatest sin of all, pride, to get the world under his feet. Dr. Doom decides to keep an eye on Submariner in case he needs help, because that's what partners do. Albeit, a few panels later, the Atlantean prince comes face to face with his 3 greatest enemies, Attuma, Tiger Shark, and Dr. Dorcas, and Submariner gets captured. Dr. Doom goes to the Hydro base they're at to save Namor. He arrives and fights Attuma's army in Octomechs and gets help from Betty Dean, one of Submariner's girlfriends. When Dorcas tries to shoot Namor later with a laser rifle, Betty Dean throws herself in the way of the weapon. In shock and horror, Namor breaks free and goes to the woman's side. He is furious to find that yet another woman he loved has been killed by his foes. This is a huge deal since she had been in over 100 issues and was in comics since January 1940. Dr. Doom decides to revive Namor and help him, and it's even suggested that Dr. Doom cares for specific workers of his, which Namor is surprised by. Issue 3 ends with Subby witnessing Dr. Doom coldly killing Attuma's jester called Saru-san. Namor questions Doom's methods and is warned that such attitude would have a negative effect on their alliance. Of course, Namor doesn't like that. Dorcas is seemingly killed when an Octomech falls and crushes him to death. Namor has Attuma and Tiger Shark then taken into custody. It was a very great Namor to Submariner story, actually. A little bit better than a Dr. Doom story. Well, definitely better. So Tiger Shark is definitely my favorite Submariner villain, and I know a bit more about Dorcas than Attuma. Reading this, Namor was definitely more of a hero than what others in the Marvel comic universe thought of him at the time. I think Dr. Doom in this story was at one of his most relatable, making mistakes, overcoming personal obstacles, and we got to see some more powers he has, like this hypnotism impulse in his glove. A really great, big, important Namor event to kick off the main series. We will now look at Supervillain Team-Up issue 4, titled A Time of Titans. Picking up right after the last story, Namor is furious that Doom committed murder in cold blood, and their argument turns to fighting words. Dr. Doom actually believes he defeated Namor after they fight in a naval sub and leaves, deciding that his attempts at forming an alliance with the Submariner a failure and returns home to plan anew. That was the whole story, a giant fight with Doom and Namor. The only moment that was unique was when a mad doctor used power from Doom's armor to power a creature that he was creating in his ship, but this doesn't have anything to do with literally anything else. The Fantastic Four guest starred in Supervillain Team-Up issues 5 and 6. Yes, this was a surprise to me. I had no idea the Fantastic Four would be in this series, although I guess it's kind of obvious because greatest enemies and all that. It all opens up with Namor crashing into the Baxter building, begging for their help, as Dr. Doom has destroyed Namor's suit that allows him to survive out of water. Doom also threatened to destroy Atlantis buildings some more if Namor didn't vow loyalty to him, which Namor did. Doom spares Namor by giving him a serum that will keep him alive for 24 more hours, and he offers him one way out to see if Reed Richards can repair his suit in time. As the rest of the Fantastic Four work on a way to cure Namor, the Human Torch spots someone spying on them from the rooftop across the street. Investigating puts the Torch in a battle against a new costumed superhuman named the Shroud. The Shroud easily defeats the Human Torch by overpowering him with a somersault kick and putting out his flame with his asbestos-lined cape. He makes his escape, vowing that he will defeat Dr. Doom. Unfortunately for everyone, Mr. Fantastic can't figure out a way to save Namor before time's up, and Namor flees back to Castle Doom. In issue 6, Namor is allowing himself to remain prisoner per his oath to Doom. The Fantastic Four head into the Lion's Den, so to say, to rescue Namor from the villain. There, Marvel's first family fights Doom's android army and eventually Namor himself per orders. Namor also battles the Shroud to protect Dr. Doom, since the Rogue is the only one who can cure Namor. Dr. Doom is otherwise occupied as he is meeting with a guy called Henry Kissinger and discussing Latveria's new political base now that he is allied with Atlantis. Now, in the fight between Namor and the FF, the team defeat him pretty easily. But, by the time Marvel's first family breaks into Doom's castle, the Secretary of State changes things by declaring America cannot interfere with Latveria's affairs, and Victor commands the Four to leave immediately, which they, legally, are forced to do. In Supervillain Team-Up Issue 7, it was all about Dr. Doom versus the Shroud. The story starts with the Shroud telling Submariner he will free him from Doom's bond by killing the Monarch. He also describes his origin story. As a small child, the Shroud's family was murdered by a crook. By that point on, the young man who would become the Shroud would vow to destroy all crime. He began a lifetime of studying science, detective work, as well as honing his body physically. Inspired by the symbolism that superheroes use to fight crime, the inspired man would travel to Tibet and meet with the cult of Kali, who worshipped the god Kali, a bringer of justice. After training with the cult, they eventually gifted him with the mark of Kali, which involved placing a hot iron on his face. Fleeing from the searing pain, the Shroud would bury his face in the snow outside the temple. He would find that the temple then vanished away, and although the experience had blinded him, it endowed him with great powers. The Shroud would then design his costume and use his mastery of darkness to fight crime. The Shroud does find Doom in the mountaintops and they fight. Doom shows off his trick weapons and force field, but the Shroud is a newcomer. He still manages to not only survive this fight, but get Dr. Doom to be pushed off a cliff by his attack dogs, apparently killing him. And yeah, the Shroud goes back and tells Namor Doom's dead, he is free, and the two plan to escape Latveria. The last panel of the issue, probably obvious, Dr. Doom did survive and was picked up / captured by Atlanteans. It continued in Supervillain Team-Up number 8 with a guest appearance by the villain Ringmaster. Dr. Doom convinces the Atlanteans to take him back to Latveria. There, he finds out Namor is not there and decides to heal himself up at the Atlantis labs. Meanwhile, Submariner and Shroud trek through the woods around Doom's castle they find a circus there with the Ringmaster and his circus of crime. The two convince him to be in disguise and join his parade tonight to escape. But during the party, Namor spots Dr. Doom atop a tower and breaks his cover, still being vowed to serve Doom, and that's when the story ends. Next was the 4-issue crossover with the Avengers in Avengers 154, Supervillain Team-Up 9, and Avengers 155 and 156. Issue 156 is actually titled The Private War of Dr. Doom, the same title of the future cartoon episode Avengers Earth's Mightiest Hero Season 2 Episode 1. In issue 154, Tyraq tried to infiltrate the Avengers posing as the Inhuman called Triton. However, the Scarlet Witch discovered the deception and confronted him, but was defeated along with the rest of her colleagues except for the Beast. This story was actually Tyraq's first appearance. In SVTU 9, back in Latveria, Doom brings the Shroud and Namor to his palace and reveals himself to really be Prince Rodolfo, the exiled former leader. Rodolfo explains to the two that he had taken the place of a Doombot following his exile and asks for their aid in dismantling Doom's reign. Okay, back to Avengers. Tyraq led Earth's mightiest heroes to Atuma, which placed a collar on them later that forced them to follow his orders. Atuma instructed them to attack the Hydro base and remove Namor. Unfortunately, Namor was not there, but instead, they discovered Dr. Doom, who beat the reduced team. However, the Monarch of Latveria finished by releasing the Avengers from their control by Atuma, while Atuma's forces still beat up and captured the Avengers. And meanwhile, he attacks the sea platform where scientists were testing out a new chloral beam device. Atuma's attack on the station was interrupted by the Beast, Wizard, and Wonder Man. The Rogue was losing, but then Namor arrived and Atuma tricked the Submariner into attacking Wonder Man and the others, saying that they were all allies. The fight allows for Atuma to steal the weapon he is seeking and make his escape. Namor soon realizes the deception when the Wizard slows down enough for the Submariner to recognize him as his old ally from the Liberty Legion during World War II. The Vision escapes confinement from Atuma and goes to find Dr. Doom, convincing him to help out the Avengers since Atuma would eventually threaten Latveria. Even with a more powerful Tyraq and Atuma, the villains were defeated and Dr. Doom fled with the chloral beam. However, the Avengers managed to track down Doom and destroy the device before he could use it for his own ends. And that all leads to Supervillain Team-Up issues 10 through 12 with the return of the Red Skull, and it involves Captain America. The story involves Captain America breaking into the Latvian embassy and fights through a swarm of robotic guards before making his way to Dr. Doom. Before Doom can attack him, Captain America shows him a scepter embezzled with the Red Skull's crest. Doom is furious that the Red Skull would once more take advantage of his absence from Latveria, so the two decide to work together to stop him. The issue also continues the story of the Shroud and Prince Rodolfo. The two plan to take back control of Castle Doom and establish Rodolfo as ruler. However, while making their way to the control room, they are ambushed and Rodolfo is struck down by an energy blaster, and Skrull reveals that Doctor Doom, the real Doctor Doom, Victor Von Doom, is still alive, and he plans to use Latveria as a launching pad for his latest iteration of his fourth reach. Red Skull intends to enslave the entire planet with a satellite station armed with the Hypno Ray, which is now in its final phases of construction in Earth's orbit. Captain Doom's plane gets brought down while approaching Castle Doom. Red Skull thinks they're dead, but the two are just miniaturized and travel to Doom's castle, having to rely on each other for survival. In fact, one moment has the floodgates open around the castle, almost drowning Captain America as Doctor Doom saves him. Anyway, Submariner arrives at the Castle Doom, and Red Skull tries to convince Namor to join him. Shroud reminds Namor that Skrull is a Nazi, and Namor fought in World War II. For a strange reason, the Submariner still grabs Doom at the Red Skull's command. However, Doom convinces the Submariner of the Skrull's intent to build a Hypno Ray. He also promises to cure the comatose Atlanteans if the Submariner restores them to their normal size. Knowing that Doctor Doom is not a liar, the Submariner pushes a button on the shrinking device that restores Doom and Cap to their normal sizes. He also manages to get Doom's throne and erect a force field around himself. Red Skull is the one who sits in Doom's chair and puts a force field around himself, boasting over his eventual victory. The Skrull doesn't know that the mortally wounded Prince Rodolfo, is reaching for the control device. Rodolfo uses it hoping to destroy the Skull once and for all. However, in reality, he only transported Red Skull to the moon, where he can finalize the construction of his Hypno Ray. In issue 12, Doctor Doom and the Shroud head to the moon to stop Red Skull. The Shroud deactivates the Skull's device, and Doctor Doom manages to best the Red Skull in combat, burying him in piles of moon rock. While the Skull's minions arrive, Doom offers them an ultimatum: join him or die like their master. The group decide to abandon the Red Skull in favor of Doctor Doom. The villains all return to Earth, leaving the Red Skull on the moon's surface to die. And Supervillain Team Up issue 12 was Prince Rodolfo's last appearance. Although it states that he is seriously injured, this is his last appearance. He is reported to have died following this battle by his brother Zorba Hassan in Fantastic Four issue 198. To conclude the Doctor Doom / Submariner supervillain team-up stories, in issue 13, it has Namor take on the warlord Krang's army for the fate of Atlantis. The setup is Doctor Doom makes good to his promise with Namor and joining him in the Atlanteans as an attempt to restore them, as they have spent recent history in a comatose state. However, upon their arrival, they find an army led by warlord Krang, who intends to destroy the Submariner and take over Atlantis. Bound by honor, Doctor Doom decides to help Namor stop this attack. Man, I still remember when I thought Krang was a cool guy, before I kept reading Submariner stories and he became a villain. In the battle, Krang uses the trumpet horn of Atlantis to summon a sea creature referred to as the Blasphemous Horror to destroy Namor. Doctor Doom does succeed in bringing back to life, so to say, the Atlanteans and goes one-on-one against Krang in a sword fight and wins, but not killing him, leaving him for Namor to judge. With the people revived, they reinstate Namor as their monarch and hail him their hero. Doom decides to leave in discretion then. But that's not the end of the series, as the next story was a crossover with the Champions and Supervillain Team Up issue 14 and Champions issue 16. Magneto finds himself in Latveria today and is disgusted how the citizens fairly worship him. He goes to Doctor Doom and offers a partnership. Doom says he's already taken over the world, as he orders Magneto to bow to him, and he does. Doom has spread a neurogas around the world, forcing anyone to bend to his will, but he is bored now and wants a challenge, so he releases Magneto from his control to find a way to stop Doctor Doom. Like it's some sort of game. First off, Magneto goes to the Avengers, which they attack him at first, but then Doctor Doom controls the heroes so he can't get all of their help, but Magneto decides to work with the Beast, the one member from the team that Doctor Doom says he could work with one member, and he chose the Beast, releasing Beast from his control. The two go to the Champions for help, but the Avengers told them Magneto was violent and Beast betrayed them, so there's a fight. Honestly, the Champions are just here as more superpowered faces. I guess having Beast go against fellow original X-Men members was something worthwhile to have this fight happen. Now, in Washington, D.C. later, Doctor Doom has taken advantage of his neurogas to bend the wills of President Jimmy Carter and his staff. However, their overeagerness and praise of Doom begins to grate on the Monarch, who angrily storms out of the room. Doom later controls the Hulk to fight Hercules, as Magneto led the Champions to his location. Ghost Rider himself is not affected by the neurogas and fights Doctor Doom after seeing him. He blasts Hellfire on Doom's face mask. He tears it off quickly, inhaling his own neurogas, destroying the controlling effect. This story could have been a huge long event, but how did they jam-pack these 2 issues with Doctor Doom, Magneto, the Avengers, and the Champions? I still don't think the story was overcrowded. Dr. Doom taking over the world, and then being bored, I can't imagine that to be true. Another example of why I love Doctor Doom so much. A very realistic supervillain, well, for a Marvel big bad. And that was all for Doctor Doom in the Supervillain Team-Up series. It all ends with Doctor Doom breathing in his gas, but then forgetting how to function properly, and being surrounded by the Champions. Now this, in the title, was never resolved. Doom was just left like this. Because in the next issue, we already looked at, as it was a reprint of Tales to Astonish issues 4 and 5, when Doctor Doom fought the Red Skull. Nothing special to look at under the cover of SVTU 15. This series officially ended with issues 16 and 17, these 2 being the most unique issues because there's no Doctor Doom and no Submariner. Issue 17 came out June 1980. Yeah, there's 2 issues that came out 2 years later after the last issue. Now, I think Marvel was trying to bring the series back, but it just didn't work out. And I can tell why, since I think these are my least favorite issues in the whole book. The plot of these 2 is Red Skull is on Exile Island and is working with the Hate-Monger to create a second cosmic cube. Skull works with Hate-Monger to get information about S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to save a Nazi bounty hunter. He works with AIM and Arnim Zola to create the second cosmic cube, and then he traps the Hate-Monger in it. The end. What a weird story to close us out. After all of that in Supervillain Team-Up Volume 1, Doctor Doom's next story was in Fantastic Four issues 196 to the Big 200. Again, I'll talk about this stuff another time. There were things about Submariner's mythos that I first learned about reading this collection, and I was pleasantly surprised to see that the Fantastic Four, Red Skull, Magneto, also played a role in the book. I'm glad it wasn't just Namor and Doctor Doom also a little bit, even though the last 2 issues in the book were bad. The stories got better and more entertaining / varied, vast the issues kept going on. Of course, outside of the last 2, which again, I can see why it was cancelled. I do find it really weird why they brought it back after 2 years of not a new issue in the series, but anyway. Those 2 issues were just very boring. I read of the Shroud when he first appeared in the Jessica Drew Spider-Woman series. I then read this, and he's actually an awesome character. It was crazy that he beat Doctor Doom in their first confrontation. Should you pick up Marvel Essential Supervillain Team-Up? No. Unless you really love Doctor Doom. I mean, it's always up to you personally. Now I know there's a smaller collection in color that you can pick up, but it doesn't have the Astonishing Tales issues, but I still wouldn't bother. I can see a resemblance between Doctor Doom and Lex Luthor after reading this, at least when the 2 are alone and not facing their greatest enemies. I'm going to now tell you guys my top 10 stories in the series, or in the Essential collection. Number 10 is Astonishing Tales issues 1 through 3 when Doctor Doom vs. the Doomsman. Number 9 is Supervillain Team-Up issue 13, Doom vs. Krang. Number 8, Supervillain Team-Up issues 10 through 12, Doom vs. Red Skull Round 2. Number 7 is the crossover with Avengers issues 154 to 156 and Supervillain Team-Up issue 9, Doctor Doom the Avengers vs. Atuma. Number 6 is Giant-Sized Supervillain Team-Up issue 2, Submariner and Doctor Doom vs. the Return of the Doomsman now called Andro. Number 5 is Supervillain Team-Up issues 1 through 3. Doctor Doom helps Namor against his 3 greatest enemies. Number 4, Astonishing Tales issue 8, Doctor Doom vs. basically Satan to save his mom. Number 3, Supervillain Team-Up number 7, The Shroud vs. Doctor Doom. Number 2 is the 2 issues right before that, issues 5 and 6 with Fantastic Four trying to save Namor from Doctor Doom's control. And my number 1 favorite one, maybe surprisingly, is Astonishing Tales issues 6 and 7, Doctor Doom meets the Black Panther. That was the first Marvel Supervillain Team-Up series, and it was a really solid run. My favorite parts are when they really explored Doctor Doom's decision-making and coming to terms with the way things are across the Marvel Universe at the time. My favorites being when he decides to work with Submariner, putting aside his pride and helping the guy out, and when he saw the similarities between him and Latveria with Black Panther and Wakanda. Well, that was the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed, and have a great day.